A conservative government is all set to replace the submissive Moon Jae-in administration in South Korea. Conservative leader Yoon is going to be South Korea's new president. For China, this serves as a major warning as South Korea could go nuclear soon. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Tejasvi Malhotra. Let's begin. South Korea has elected a China hawk Yoon as its new president. The thing about Yoon is that he wants to secure South Korea at any cost, unlike Moon Jae-in, who prioritized economic growth over security. And how can Yoon protect South Korea? He is sandwiched between North Korea and China, both of whom have way too many nuclear warheads staring down at South Korea. So Seoul needs to go nuclear. South Koreans want it, and frankly, conservative leaders too want nuclear cover. There is every possibility of South Korea pursuing a nuclear weapons policy. To begin with, South Koreans want the bomb. Most of the South Koreans want nuclear weapons at any cost, either an indigenous nuclear weapons program or redeployment of American tactical nuclear weapons. A survey conducted by Chicago Council of Global Affairs found that 71% of respondents supported development of nuclear weapons by South Korea. On the other hand, 56% of respondents argued in favor of deployment of US nuclear weapons instead. The hunger of nuclear weapons is growing in South Korea as they see the China threat getting bigger. 55% of the respondents agreed that China will be the biggest threat to South Korea in 10 years. This is what also explains overwhelming support for a nuclear weapons program among South Koreans. Recently, a report released by the Bulletin.org revealed that South Korea has been covertly seeking to develop the pyroprocessing technology to separate plutonium from spent fuel. And why is this important? Well, it is the same technology that India had used in 1974 to carry out its first nuclear test. So we do know that South Korea does have the technology to develop the nuclear bomb. Given South Korea's nuclear program and secret nuclear experiments in the past, it is widely believed by military experts that Seoul might be able to develop nuclear weapons within 18 months. So the answer is yes. South Korea does have a bomb in the basement. Unlike Moon, Yoon does want South Korea to attain nuclear deterrence. Most conservative politicians in South Korea back nuclear firepower as opposed to the liberal factions' resistance on the issue. In fact, Yoon wants nuclear to account for 30% of total energy generated in his country. Moon, on the other hand, was trying to wrap up South Korea's nuclear energy program over safety concerns following Japan's Fukushima disaster in 2011. More importantly, during his election campaign, Yoon promised that he would demand the redeployment of tactical nuclear weapons by the US in South Korea. The US had deployed its tactical nuclear weapons in South Korea in the late 1950s, but withdrew them later in the early 1990s because of disarmament agreements with the erstwhile Soviet Union. One thing is clear, Yoon wants nuclear weapons. The US is not keen on stationing its nuclear weapons in South Korea, at least not as long as Biden is in power. In 2016, South Korean Deputy National Security Advisor Cho Tae-yong had visited the US with a secret request to deploy nuclear weapons in South Korea. However, Cho's request was turned down. Then US President Barack Obama abandoned South Korea and said that he wanted a world without nuclear weapons. Now, the Yoon administration is likely to make a similar demand again after taking charge of the affairs in Seoul. But the man in the Oval Office, Joe Biden, is the former deputy of Barack Obama himself. It is almost certain that Biden too would turn down South Korea's request for deployment of nuclear weapons. And what can conservatives do when the US rejects their plea for redeployment of tactical nuclear weapons? Well, in 1974, South Korea's then President Park Chung-hee feared that the US might abandon his country. So he initiated a covert nuclear weapons deployment program. However, Pak was later forced to roll back the nuclear program under American pressure. More recently, in October 2017, then chair of the Korean Conservative Party, Hong Jun-pyo, said that if the US didn't return tactical nuclear weapons to South Korea, Seoul would have no choice except going nuclear. And we could be coming down to that situation. South Korea wants nuclear weapons. When asked to choose between domestic nuclear weapons program and the deployment of American nuclear weapons, South Koreans choose independent nuclear weapons. Still, Yoon might make that one request to Biden which will most probably get shot down, and then South Korea could go nuclear on themselves to take on the China threat.